All right, I'm going to call to order the City of Janesville Council meeting for Monday, November 24th, 2025. If you'd stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with Constitution, with liberty and justice for all. All right, in case of emergency, use the stairs and not the elevator to exit. Walk to the north side of the police department and wait for further instructions. Clerk, roll call, please.
Council President Burdick.
Here.
Vice President Squire.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Nino, can you hear me?
I can, and I am here.
Okay. Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Cass.
Here.
Councilmember Erdman.
Here.
All are present. We do have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Item 3, recognitions, I see none. Moving to item 4, public comments on items on the agenda not requiring a public hearing and on matters which can be affected by council action. There are 3 public hearings today on the docket, which are 7A, proposed ordinances adjusting Janesville Transit to paratransit fees, a proposed ordinance authorizing various user fee changes as part of the 2026 city budget, and public hearing on the 2026 proposed city and library budgets. If you're here to talk about any of those, please wait for the public hearings. Other than that, do we have anybody signed up tonight?
Ty Bollerud.
All right, state your name, address, and you have 4 minutes. Thank you.
Ty Ballrood, PO Box 216, Janesville, Wisconsin. Them 2 maps over there says, given from a map-loving citizen. That was me. One is the 1877 map. Goes with this deed. So if you go to Franklin Street and you walk up that sidewalk up underneath the railroad bridge, you go up on and it hooks up to Ray Street. Well, they put it in the survey deed to build them railroads originally. And whoever was smart enough to know that there'd be a lot of people trying to take control of that, to sell that or resell that, couldn't have hit that on a better note, because that's all I've seen the last number of years, because nobody holds the Department of Transportation accountable, or Rock County Railroad Committee is not held responsible. We don't have a survey person in the city of Janesville that will even, review something, possibly review it. Well, I went and did the review. One thing them bridges never had was Kansas City locomotives on top of them. That's a failed locomotive. Union Pacific locomotives are not Kansas City Southern locomotives. How come Kansas City, the railroad company went out of business? Because they're a failed locomotive. If you think about it, Janesville GM, you look at Waukesha Motors, Wisconsin had a lot to do with building railroads and locomotives. So if we would have sold them some of ours when we used to make them, they would have had some decent ones. That's BSMF, is Waukesha Motors. And that's what we're saying. We're saying, hey, if we want something else, there used to be a lot of travel points that are not viewable anymore. A lot of good sites that are not viewable anymore. Matter of fact, the state of Wisconsin's Department of Transportation, they're not in the business to govern. They're in the business to own. It's a public railroad, never certified. Not for 40 years it's coming up. It's never been certified. And we can sit around for another 10 years before there's an automatic review from the legislator. That's 10 more years of whatever it's getting targeted. And the locomotive answers the other locomotive. That's what happened today. Well, they're sitting up on the exact spot that I'm telling you about, because the one that goes left along the river on this side, that's a vacant track. That's the track that got vacant. So now it's way over on the other side and they come across. We haven't seen it in engineer. I mean, they built a hell of a turn there. But if Union Pacific's been sitting up there on Jackson Street for what, weeks? You think they have some issue there? Does anybody care from the Department of Transportation or Rock County? No, they're in the business of competing. somebody from the city of Janesville should say, hey, we're losing a lot of stuff. We're losing a lot of stuff downtown. Doesn't make any sense. 1861, that's when this deed is wrote. You see this copy? It's a sidewalk. If you go look at it, you'll know exactly why they wrote it up. You can't miss it. You go look at the maps, you'll start to understand. We're letting people hostages downtown that have no care for the city of Janesville and no reason. We should get out of the hostage business, then we wouldn't let other people hostage.
Thank you. Clerk, do we have anyone else?
I do not have anyone else signed up at this time.
All right, is there anybody in chambers wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none. We're moving on to item 5, reports. A, impact report presentation from the Advisory Committee on Appointments, and we have Mr. Rich Gruber here to give us that presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Council President and members. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to be here with you tonight. The purpose of our visit, well, let me expand just a little bit. One of the things that our committee has done this year in particular is we've started an outreach effort to get better connected with the committees by which we do business for. And that'll become clear here in a minute as I present just a little bit of history of where the Advisory Committee on Appointments was, what the origin is and why it was created. Back in 2008, the council created the Advisory Committee on Appointments for the specific purpose of vetting candidates for appointment to boards and commissions throughout the city of Janesville and making their recommendations to the council president at that point in time who made those appointments. We were created in an attempt at the time to essentially place a merit-based appointment structure into play in an effort to try and better match up the community volunteers that are ready, willing, and able to serve the city, but to make sure that they had a good experience as a volunteer. Somebody who has an interest in the actual activities of the committee that they would ultimately be appointed to. And we've served, I believe, that purpose fairly well, in as much as throughout the history, there's been very few changes to the ordinance that created us. And because there's been very few changes, most of the things that we have done to improve our processes are grown internally. And if you can look, the first major change that happened back in 2017 to the ordinance, and at that point in time, the ACA, the Advisory Committee on Appointments, was no longer making the recommendations for the appointment of members of the Plan Commission, the Police and Fire Commission, or the Business Improvement District appointments. And at that particular point in time, I can't give you exactly the reason why, and I kind of feel bad about that because I was on the council at the time that approved the change. But that was the first major change that took place to the structure and the role and the purpose. Up until that point, all of those committees across the city, whether it be Alcohol License Advisory Committee to Sustainable Janesville Committee, all the way through Plan Commission, the Police and Fire Commission, all of those recommendations came from the Advisory Committee on Appointments, where we did the recruitment and we did the vetting of all of those candidates. Over that period of time, when the change was made to change the ACA's role, we no longer were serving in that function of doing vetting for those particular committees. That shifted that role over to the city manager's office. And you can see from the slide the changes in authority that have been made over the course of time. I have to point out that across the board, not only the recommendations that we've made as an ACA to the council for council appointments, but those as well made to the city manager have been followed almost unanimously, consistently across the board. There's been a couple of exceptions, but by and by, we've been, well, very honored that you place as much trust in us as you have. Over that course of time from 2009 to 2023, This gives you a good example of how many of our recommendations coming to the council have actually been changed and how the role has changed of the appointing authorities. Probably the only board, well, the board that sticks out as having the most changes made to the recommendations that came from the AC is the library board. And that has had 4 of those changes when we brought a recommendation in, and for whatever reason, it got scratched and moved on to something else. It's kind of interesting because one of the things we did as we put our history together was do a comparative analysis of the role of the City of Janesville Advisory Committee on Appointments, and we compared it to our comparable cities across the region. And it's interesting that we are pretty consistent in practice in just about all areas, with the one exception that Janesville uniquely assigns some responsibilities for appointments in a delegation of authority to the city manager. I wanted to give you an idea of where our applicants are coming from currently, and this is kind of a telling slide, in as much as it shows in the last year we had 83 volunteer slots available across the city and across all committees. And if you look at the concentration of those little bullet points, you'll see that the heaviest concentration is in the northeast corner of the city, with a very small proportion of our candidates and our appointees coming from the west side or the south side. And that has historically been true. And we've tried to go to the root cause as to why that is. And we've kind of concluded that there are some things that we can do in our recruitment efforts that would better target the west side and the south side to get a more broad representation of volunteers coming forward and volunteering their time and their services to get us a little bit better distribution. Here's another picture of the same thing in 2025. Most recently, we had 47 applicants for 30 different positions. The applicants from the south side, the west side, they again demonstrated that they're either not getting the invitation, they're not getting the message, or for whatever reason, they're choosing not to apply and come forward and become part of the pool for appointment. And we believe that citizen participation is critically important to what the city does, and we would like to see us broaden the ability of us to reach out and get a better representation of members across the community. To that end, one of the things that this year we did is we started doing outreach to the actual committees themselves. We, as members of the ACA, have gone to the committees who we're working for. We've gone to, for example, the Sustainable Janesville Committee, and we've asked them, are the applicants that we're sending you, are they meeting your needs? What are your needs? What specifically are the qualifications you're looking for in people that you would like to have on your committee to work with you? And that's really been helpful to get a better sense of what the individual committees actually need in order to better perform their function on behalf of the community. And that's one of the questions I'll leave with you tonight is, how can we be in a position to do a better job of serving the needs of the council as you are going forward with your pretty awesome responsibility of appointing citizens from our community to serve on the various committees that you do. Our goals going forward is, we believe, as you have expressed, that citizen participation is important, and we want to encourage volunteerism. We want to do everything in our power to see if we can't broaden that pool of potential volunteers who want to be part of the structure and the structure of Janesville city government. We want to do everything in our power to make sure that we do a better job of getting the message out. We want to do some more active recruiting. Now, the way the structure works, we will put an announcement out using city mechanisms in January, and we'll say we've got these openings on these committees, and if you're interested, go to the city's website and fill out an application form, and we'll do our best to try and match your talents and skills with the committees that are there and the committees that you're interested in serving. We think we can do a better job of that with a little better outreach, and we'd like to focus on demonstrating some of that outreach in the coming year. Our goal simply is to make sure that we have active community participation, and we give our volunteers a rewarding experience. Probably the worst thing that could ever happen to a volunteer is to come forward and say, I want to serve, and then get placed in a committee that doesn't match up with their interest and their skills. And we want to avoid that wherever possible. And the best way to do that is to treat it just like you would be recruiting somebody for a city position somewhere else. If it were a paid position, you want to be actively looking for people who have an interest in parks and recreation when you're out there looking for volunteers to serve on the Park and Recreation Committee. Same is true across the board for every one of the committees that the city has. Here's some of our goals in the short term. And we think that all of these are important from the perspective that we want to give the community a fair picture of this being a transparent process that's based on merit. And you can see some recommendations that we have there in that respect. From a fairness perspective, we want to make sure that we're appointing the best possible candidates we can and match up the needs of the individual committees that you have. We've laid out some recommendations for the short term, for the medium term, things that we would like to see happen. By the most important thing that we need as a committee is a reaffirmation that we're doing the job that you want us to do. And if there's areas where we can do that job better, please tell us how we can do that job better. Because we're here, we're serving you. And we're here because we're proud of the opportunity to try and help create the best environment for the community. And one of the ways of doing that is giving them very, very quality, high quality volunteer opportunities. And we thank you for the trust you've placed in us. And how can we be of service and do a better job to you? That's the question I leave you with tonight. On top of a huge thank you for placing the trust in us that you have.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Go ahead.
I actually do have one, Mr. Gruber, and you may not know this, and I apologize if I ask and you don't know. I guess historically, have we had representation or maybe applications, I should ask, from a greater variety of residents across the city? Have we typically had more applications from that area of town, or has it been a little more spread out? Do you have any idea? I know you've been on for quite some time.
I've been on for quite a number of years, and it has historically been most challenging to try and get individuals from a couple of areas of town to come forward and volunteer. And I can't pinpoint, if I was to do a root cause analysis of why that is, I can't get you to that answer. All I can tell you is in terms of being able to treat that symptom, I think that there is an opportunity for us as an ACA and for our city staff liaison to do a little bit better job of getting those opportunities posted prominently in places across the community. Right now, honestly, our advertising of volunteer opportunities is very limited, very limited. And as you can see, if we're dealing with a pool of 87 applicants for 47 openings, that tells you that we could use a few more applicants to be really, truly competitive. And it's like anything else that you do. If you don't get the word out and let people know that the opportunity is there, they're not going to come forward necessarily on their own. And that's one thing that I think we can do better. The other thing that we can do better is a process-related improvement. We have started a process of asking people who are leaving boards and commissions to do exit surveys, to let us know what their experience was like. Is there a particular reason why that they're leaving, or what was the highlight of their being there? Did they feel like they were matched with the committee that they wanted to be matched with or should be matched with? We do that in the hopes that, one, we can capture the good experiences, but more importantly, capture those areas where somebody's not necessarily had a great experience and see if we can't put a fix in place so that the next volunteer has a better experience. Part of that then helps us to pinpoint the placement of our volunteers. You know, the best possible advertising the city of Janesville can have across the community and across our neighborhoods is the good experience that our existing volunteers have within the volunteer structure that the city should be proud of. When you've got happy volunteers who are spreading the word that, you know, it's a rewarding experience working with city staff and being part of the solution at the city level, you can't get any better advertising than that. And really, truly, it begins with us getting out actively and trying to bring people into the volunteer opportunities. I will tell you, from a pure committee perspective, every one of the members of our committee and Councilmember Cass, who has served on the committee, can speak to the dedication of the folks that are involved. They truly want to do a professional job of placing our applicants in the best possible position for them to succeed. And that's kind of a twofold responsibility. The city staff and the city support that they provide to our committees is critical, is crucial. That's on the meeting by meeting opportunity for us to really sell the quality of life that the city is about, and not take their committee for granted. And there's been some experiences where I've had committee members leaving who have come back and said, you know, our liaison is great, I guess, but we don't really feel like we're engaged. And that's not the best ambassador for us to send back into the community to recruit somebody else. That's a long answer to your question, but I'll tell you, the best thing that we can do to get more applicants from specific areas in the community is do a better job of getting the word out that we have the openings in the first place.
So you kind of touched on my second question. How are we getting the word out aside from just the city website? Because I know there's people probably not making that a regular visit. I'm sure now with social media, you know, we're kind of expanding in social media. That would be a great avenue. How else are we getting this information out so that people know, hey, now's the time to put in for some of these committees?
I have to tell you that the advisory committee on appointments has been really blessed to have the liaison that we have in Nick Faust. And Nick has put in yeoman service to try and take advantage of the communication mechanisms the city has to get the word out that we've got volunteer opportunities available. And so he's taken advantage of the city's social media presence, and he's taken advantage of essentially every turn that he can to get the word out. Is that enough? Until we turn the corner and can actually say we've got more applicants, I would love to be in a position where we had 3 applicants for every volunteer opportunity that we have. And I'd love to see them reside all across the community. And I think we have the potential to do that with your support. I think we can do great things. The goal that we have had and we've worked hard as a committee to perpetuate is we want to make sure that we're doing merit-based recommendations to get the right people in the right spots. Because again, Councilmember Miller, it goes back to a happy volunteer is probably the best advertising that you can possibly have.
So my last question, and maybe this one is more for the city manager. Do we have committees that are not utilized? I mean, I can only speak from my own experience, but it seems to me that we could engage our committees a bit more. And I'm just wondering, is that going to change? Are we going to continue down this path? What does that look like in the future?
I'm going to defer that one to the city manager.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a variety of things that happen. The committees that are formed for a specific purpose, and we do, refer the items that should go through those committees to them, and then they make recommendations to the city council based upon what their duties are defined within our ordinances or council policies. And so there are some that don't meet as often as others. But it's really a function of the agenda items or the issues that are at hand for them to make recommendations to the city council.
I'll give you an example. One of the most important committees that the city has, but they meet very rarely, is the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And they meet rarely because it takes, it takes special items to get to their agenda, and to recruit for that particular group, you're looking for some very specific talents and skills. And we have committees like that. I can think of 2 more, 3 more off the top of my head where you have that much specificity in the need for particular skills on a committee. What we're finding as we've gone out and we've visited with our committees, they are telling us that not only do they have those general skills needs, but there's very specific areas that the Historic Commission is looking for when they have a vacancy on the Historic Commission. For example, they're looking for somebody who has some engineering or architectural background and has a familiarity with historic preservation. And we need, as a committee, as the ACA, to do a better job to try and identify those skill sets in the people that we recruit so that we're getting the right people to the right positions. And so they have a better volunteer experience. And honestly, when you've got a committee that is full of individuals who are enthused to be there, they have the talents and skills to do the analysis that's required of them, you get better recommendations coming to the council. And isn't that what it's about, on top of somebody feeling like they're part of the solution? That is, to me, what's the most meaningful part of this whole committee structure is giving people an opportunity to be part of the solution, part of how business is done. Incumbent on all of us to once in a while remind ourselves that our first commitment needs to be, as a community member, to get informed, get involved, and make a real difference. And you can't do it being a Monday morning quarterback.
Anyone else? Hearing none, thanks. Rich?
Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 5B, city manager update by City Manager Kevin Lehner.
I just have a couple of items for this evening. Just a reminder that our bagged yard waste collection will be on the week of December 1st, which is the same day as your residence trash collection. And a reminder to use the biodegradable paper bags. If that doesn't work for you, our compost site is open through Saturday, December 13th, and you can visit the website listed there for more details. We do have the Jolly Jingle coming up December 5th through the 7th. As always, our Parks and Recreation Division is going to host a variety of activities: Jingle Bell Hunt, tree lighting, holiday lighted parade. We have a ton of sponsors this year, and just a special thanks to Shelley and her crew because it takes a ton of work for that to go on, and it's a wonderful community event. Lots of folks get out. Hopefully, knock on wood, we'll have good weather for it again going forward. And so jollyjingle.com is where you can get the list of all the activities for that. And then the last thing I would just mention is that, we do continue to do follow-up activities as it relates specifically to Veridian's proposal for a data center. So the next activities are really drilling down the company and Veridian having to meet with DNR to fully understand their responsibilities and the role the DNR will play if the project goes forward. And then also additional studies and engineering studies with Alliant. Those are two main things that will help dictate what happens next. So we'll continue to have regular conversations and work on other activities related to it, but those are the two main things that occur from this point forward. So I just wanted to provide that information, and that is the end of my report.
All right, any council member, any questions for the city manager? Go ahead.
City Manager Lehner, is there any way to incorporate public health into that due diligence in the near future
Yep.
as we're looking at data center in?
Yep, we are looking at that as well. So we are doing additional collecting data collection on those sorts of topics. And so we've been reaching out to some folks, and then we'll be collecting more information on that too. So as we move forward and we have additional public forums and update our website, we will provide that information as well. So.
Thank you.
Councilmember, go ahead.
We have the 2400 Beloit Avenue next piece coming up December 11th. Can you speak to why we are holding it at City Hall as opposed to on the south side, given that the purpose of that consultation process is to engage those residents who are most impacted by the project? And obviously, future public engagement circumstances will also involve, hopefully, be able to involve local people in those things, thinking forward to the GM-JATCO property as well. So.
Yeah, so we are hosting it here. We send out notices for it to be here. We have had various efforts to hold meetings in other facilities, and one of the things that is a particular challenge is just the setup of a remote location, especially when we're filming it. It takes a tremendous amount of staff hours in order to handle that. And also there was a period of time where when we were planning different events where the county was updating, we were looking at trying to use the Dale Resource Center. They were updating their meeting room policies, and we weren't able to access that facility. We also attempted to use the school district, and that was a challenge as well. And so when we were setting dates, we ultimately decided to set it here so we could send out notices and to be able to more efficiently use our staff.
All right, anyone else? All right, hearing none. Thanks for your report. Moving on to item 6, the consent agenda. All items will pass under consent agenda unless pulled by a council member, and I've already been advised that Councilmember Erdman wants to pull item 6D. So 6A, minutes of November 10th, 2025, regular city council meeting. B, financial statements for the month of October. C, licenses and recommendations. D, which will pull, consideration and action of rescinding council policy statement number 64, which is parks and recreation fees. Anybody wish to pull any other item besides D, David? Seeing or hearing none, all the items A, B, and C will pass under consent, and we'll pull D, and I'll give you the floor there, Councilmember Erdman.
I guess I would like the same presentation, or more or less, that was given to the PRAC that resulted in a unanimous recommendation on eliminating the policy. I also feel like since it's a council policy that's been around for a fairly long period of time, was last updated 5 years ago, that eliminating it under consent seems not the appropriate way. I feel like we should have a little more consideration of what goes into the previous policy and why it's going away now.
Hey, Jennifer, you prepared to give us that?
I'm prepared to give you background on the policy and answer any questions that you have. I was not the one who gave the presentation to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, so I don't have that exact presentation before me, but I'd be happy to go through the background about this policy and why it's being recommended for rescinding at this
Yes.
time.
If you could, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm Jennifer Petrozello, Neighborhood and Community Services Director. The question before the City Council tonight is the consideration of rescinding Council Policy Number 64, which relates to Parks and Recreation fees. The council policy was originally created in 1988 with subsequent revisions. Most recently, that policy was revised in 2019 as part of then city manager's efforts to bring all of the council policies before our city council for review, updating, rescinding, any modifications that were due over time. The purpose of the policy itself is to establish cost recovery goals in various areas of our recreation programming, including our senior center, our ice arena, our aquatics facilities, adult and youth recreation programs, and in the past, our Janesville Ice Arena facility as well. The current policy establishes cost recovery fees for the senior center of 35%, the ice arena for 90%, the aquatics facilities for 30%, adult and youth program fees at 65%, and an overall recreation division operating budget cost recovery at 50% of target. We're recommending that this policy be I guess I should back up just one second. So in 2019, when we did revise that policy, the main updates were to language, current practice, and updating the cost recovery goals to be what were reflected or more reflected in the actual budgets that were being approved by the city council. During that time, there were a number of changes. The senior center cost recovery goal was increased significantly. The Janesville Ice Arena cost recovery goal was also increased, as well as youth programs, whereas cost recovery goals for aquatics and adult programming, which also includes all of our family programming and our community events, was decreased at that time. Also at that time, there was a change in how the cost recoveries were going to be calculated, and this is something that a lot of recreation departments will look at, and we were applying a very strict cost recovery that fully included all administrative expenses. So not your direct programming expenses, but all staff expenses were going to be directly allocated to each one of the specific programs. And then it added for the first time an overall cost recovery goal of 50%. So those were some of the changes that were made into 2019. Recreation Director Shelley Slapeback and myself brought this up at this time because as we were reviewing the city council policy and the changes that have occurred in our recreation area for our 2026 budget, we felt it was time to bring this back to the city council for further consideration. The main change that we're seeing is the removal of the ice arena budget from the recreation division budgets, pulling the revenue and expenses associated with that activity into a separate fund for the Woodman Sports and Convention Center. That gives the council, the community, additional insight into the operations of that facility. However, the ice arena is one of the areas in recreation that we had the highest cost recovery ratios. And so removing the revenues and expenses associated with the ice arena reduced the overall cost recovery for the remaining recreation programs. I did just some rough calculations on that, using about 400,000 in ice arena revenues and expenses. The recreation budgets would see a decrease of 35% in revenues and a decrease in expenditures of only 20%. So that reduces your overall cost recovery goal. And in our 2026 budget, we're looking at an overall cost recovery goal of 46%. That doesn't mean that recreation programs in our community have decreased by $400,000. The revenues and expenses associated with the Woodman Sports and Convention Center are higher than that and also have a separate and higher cost recovery goal. It's just included in its own separate fund. So we recommended, we considered whether to present revisions to the city council that align with what we were seeing in terms of desires versus revenues, and felt that we're really addressing that review during our annual fee review process, where we review all of our revenue generating programs. We look at those fees in a fair amount of detail. We compare to peer communities, other similar programs that might be happening locally. We look at our participation levels to see if we are being restrictive in our fees that are resulting in a reduction in attendance or participation. And we consider how we are able to continue to offer scholarship opportunities and low-cost opportunities for our recreation program activities as well, and then bring forward a specific recommendation to council on those fees separately. So we felt that that fee review, that cost recovery ratio is being evaluated as part of the annual fee review and the annual budget process. And so having a separate policy that identified cost recovery goals was no longer necessary. And that brought our recommendation forward.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Williams, you want to comment?
No, I'd move to rescind council policy statement number 64.
We're not doing discussion?
Normally put a motion on the table first.
So I got a motion by Williams to approve.
I'll second.
Second by Squire. I'm sorry. Second by Squire. Any further discussion or comment? Or I'm sorry, any further comment?
I'm the council member that's on the Parks and Recreation Committee. There was a good presentation, just about as good as what Jennifer did on the fly by Shelley. Explained, and one of the main things is that it's done during the budget process, and with the ice arena being removed out of that particular category, it makes more sense to do it this way. So after the presentation and the discussion, the committee voted unanimously, and that's the recommendation, and I believe it's the right thing to do.
Jennifer's last comments there, as long as this is still being monitored, reviewed, and the committee is active in looking at the fees and everything that you would review per policy is within the budget process, that's the main thing, that we're not losing any oversight or activity with the committee recommending fees or anything. It's just letting it be defined by the budget process now.
Yeah, that is correct. And I
Okay.
should have mentioned that earlier, that our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee does play a role in reviewing those fees before they're recommended to City Council and as part of their review of the overall budget as well.
Okay.
They also receive reports throughout the year as to how our specific programs are performing.
Okay.
So they have that knowledge base to help them make informed decisions and
That ongoing
recommendations.
information then. Okay. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Councilmember Miller.
So Jennifer, you said if it looks like that we are going to be at about 46% as opposed to our estimate of trying to reach 50%, is that really a big enough cause to rescind this entire policy? I would think that we could modify it to make it usable. No?
I mean, the city council has an option to refer this policy back to staff for a recommendation, or we could, I could make a recommendation regarding the cost recovery ratios. I think for us, it was big enough that we felt we needed to raise the issue internally and make sure that everyone understood that our 2026 budget our proposal was not going to meet that cost recovery goal. And yet we felt like the budget we presented and the fee increases that we had provided to the city council and as part of this process were in line with what you were looking to see. We sensed that there was not a desire to have further increases in our 26 budget. And so, I mean, that's an approach. However, I think that in weighing, revising the specific goals and looking at the other processes that we now have in place, again, we felt like it was maybe not necessary to do so, but it is an option.
When we're looking at, the Woodman Center is completely separate, right?
Yes.
So when we're looking at the cost recovery for the Woodman Center, what is that estimated to be? And I know it's not going to be actual. I'm not going to hold you to it. Only
Well,
being
well,
open a few months.
Yeah, we're working towards 100% self-sufficient facility. And it doesn't come in at that in our 26 budget, as 26 will be the first full year of operations, but I'll have to give you that percentage breakdown. If you look at the Woodman Center budget, 1 second, please. The revenues are estimated to be nearly $2 million, and expenses are about 50,000 less than that. I don't know, maybe Dave could help me out with the math on the cost recovery for the Woodman Center, but that is
Thank you very much.
separately in the budget. So it exceeds 90%, and we are working towards 100% on the cost recovery for that facility.
Okay.
Councilmember Urban.
One of the last things you said is, I think, the concern that I have there, which is, I agree, your fee schedule, the way it was set this year, matched very much what the policy meant, which meant that you, and as you stated, you felt like what you guys were accomplishing was meeting what the council wanted. That's sort of the point of the council policy, is an establishment of what it is that the council wants. It seems like this policy has existed as a set of guidelines for what it is that the general public, who may or may not use the recreation fees, are getting back, how much they're going to pay in their taxes versus what's going to be paid for by the people who are taking part in the recreation. And those guidelines are obviously there to sort of cover that process. And why there's a council policy. It seems like the addition in 2019 is really the problem you're dealing with, eliminating the ice arena. Now there's an overall goal issue, which I understand that's obviously going to change without the ice arena and without the unknown expenditure aspect of the Woodman Center even being included in it. But I still feel like having guidelines that are set by the council in terms of what we're trying to kind of control in terms of cost seems to make some sense on the front end. If this is rescinded one way or the other, I feel like it's really important that there's a clear path of from year to year, that those recovery costs are shown. If that policy in some way changes, that it's very clear to a future council member who has to wade through pages and pages of numbers of trying to figure out what's going on, that there's a change in that. At least right now with the council policy in place, it's very obvious what the numbers goal was, and then yes, those fees match that. But this is the reason, I guess for me, we're sort of relinquishing some power on the council side by rescinding this policy. It's existed since, for 17 years or something like that. I don't know what the year was. And functioned just perfectly fine. All we're doing is eliminating the ice arena. And that one addition in 2019 is probably the biggest issue that's now interfering with some of those fee settings. So I guess I don't feel like this is a policy that needs to be rescinded. I feel like revision would have been more adequate.
Thank you. Did you have
I-
something else to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure in full transparency, I do agree that the overall cost recovery and the change in the ice arena was the largest difference to this policy. But the changes that were made in 2019 were recommendations from staff and truly goals, as opposed to hard and fast cost recovery ratios to be met. If we compare our 26 budget with those 25 cost recovery goals, we meet that goal for the senior center, 35% to 35%. We exceed that goal in the area of aquatics, 42% versus a goal of 30. But utilizing the administrative cost in all areas, we do not meet our cost recovery goals in the areas of youth or adult/family programming. Both of those programs had a cost recovery goal of 65%, and youth is coming in at 54, and adult and family is coming in at 50. So I did just want to mention that so that those figures were in the council's forefront in their mind.
But each of those specific figures is part of your budget calculation, and the way the budget is laid out, you can see the trends that are within each of those areas, both revenue and expense, in order to see, are they improving in your cost recovery process, or are we losing ground? And that can be seen within the budget document. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's the main thing. We still have the oversight in looking at it, watch where the trends are, know where staff is looking at it and how to move it forward. Okay.
Councilmember Miller.
I have just one more question. In regards to that cost recovery, does that include any scholarships that we're offering to those who are underserved?
It would include them in that it is either revenue not collected and the expenditures are still there, or if it were a half-price scholarship, then it would be a reduced revenue and the full expenses are still there.
Do you believe that this has a bearing on the change in the ratio?
I think it's more been a factor of expenses rising at a faster rate than fee revenue or registration fees have been raised to meet that. And when we look at those registration and fee revenues, we've heard in the past that like $5 and $10 might be too much in certain areas, and so we've tried to keep our increases very incremental, but it doesn't keep up with those expenses.
By eliminating this policy, would that enable you or the Parks Department to be able to offer more scholarships? Or what is that goal?
Well, in 2019, adding the flexibility to provide scholarships was also added to the policy. That was one of the changes at that time as well. And that's something that we do value. We want to make sure that individuals of all income levels can participate in the programs that we offer. So your question was if it would increase our ability to do it if we,
Well, if we did away with the policy, that it would basically put you in constraints of the budget. Would that allow you to have more flexibility to offer more scholarships?
we would still offer scholarships, but within the parameters of the approved budget. So the approved budget limits how many we can offer. And when we see, if we see that there's increased need, those are the kind of items we would bring up as part of our budget discussions.
My reason for asking is I don't want to do away with a policy that restricts some spending just so that we can include some staff time. I want to make sure that there's a benefit to the public by doing away with this policy. You see what I'm saying?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
If you're asking about the allocations of staff within each of the cost recovery processes,
Yeah.
that's just the internal math. You can, if we want to change that around, and it may actually make it simpler and have them spending less time doing those calculations, because you're trying to determine how much staff time is related to which activity, and if they're having to track that and report that, obviously it's important for them to know where their priorities are, but you're just allocating, and it's all still within the budget, what's approved, whether it's fees, rates, scholarships, those all are still budget line items that, again, we track, view as trends, and then staff makes recommendations of what changes to make along with, from the committee, do they see reasons for changes in any of the fees, where are things being impacted? So that's all still within that whole process. Nothing's being pulled out of it, the way that I see it.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Nino, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
That passes 5-2 with council members Miller and Erdman voting no.
All right, moving on to item 7, old business. A, second reading and public hearing and action on a proposed ordinance adjusting the Janesville Transit paratransit fees, which is file ordinance number 2025-923. And clerk, if you could read that ordinance, please.
Ordinance number 2025-923, an ordinance adjusting Janesville Transit Paratransit Agency fares with penalties and for violations thereof is set forth in JGO 38-665.
All right, and here we have Rebecca Smith, the transit director, to give us a short report.
Brief is key.
Thank
Becca
you.
Smith, Transit, thank you. Before you this evening is a ordinance adjusting agency fare paratransit fees. Quick introduction to paratransit. This is the mandated door-to-door minibus or minivan transportation service provided as required by the federal government for riders who are unable to use city buses because of their cognitive or physical condition. And it is a specialized service that individuals have to meet a criteria for in which to be eligible. Paratransit is provided at the city of Janesville through a contract with a vendor. Starting in 2026, we will have a new vendor and we will be implementing a revised per trip cost. We're moving to a tiered system that the cost per trip depends on the type of seat within the vehicle the person needs. Ambulatory versus non versus bariatric wheelchair users. Costs are $19, $38, $10, or $50 per ride, as required by the federal government. riders pay twice the cash fare. So in Janesville, riders pay $3 per trip, and Janesville Transit, as part of our budget, pays the difference. However, for those individuals that have access to what we call family care, long-term care support through human service organizations, those individuals can have their fares paid by their social service organization, and that then allows Janesville Transit to charge those agencies the full cost of that ride. And because they have access to federal funds as part of that human service program. It's always important to note that paratransit agency fares are never charged directly to a rider, always to an organization. So based on, and then a few examples of companies that you might have heard of that are family care companies. In 2026, we are expecting a little over 1,600 agency fare rides, which an estimated cost of about $64,000 in expenses and revenue. And this is reflected in our 26 budget. Following the public hearing and any questions, JT does recommend the council adopt file ordinance 2025-923, which does adjust the agency fare for those human service organizations that purchase paratransit services on behalf of their eligible clients. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, any council member have any questions? Seeing or hearing none, thank you for the report there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone in chambers wishing to speak on this? On this? Yes, on this public hearing. Okay. Going twice. Anyone in chambers wishing to speak? Going 3 times. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'm looking for a motion. I've got a motion by Councilmember Miller.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-923 to adjust Janesville Transit paratransit agency fares.
And I got a second by Councilmember Erdman. Is there any further comments or discussion? Hearing or seeing none, let's go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Nino, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Moving to 7B, this is a second reading and public hearing and action on a proposed ordinance authorizing various user fee changes as part of the 2026 city budget, which is file ordinance number 2025-924. Clerk, if you could read that ordinance, please.
File ordinance number 2025-924, an ordinance adjusting the fee for various building permit fees, business license fees, fire response fees, and sanitation fees with penalties for violations thereof as set forth in multiple JGO ordinances.
All right, thank you. We have a presentation by Finance Director Dave Godek. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President Burdick. Good evening, City Council. Dave Godek, Finance Director. Hypothetically speaking, this is going to be a lot more fun than what Becca just talked about because we're getting into all the budget stuff. So we've got recommended fee increases. If you recall back in July, we came to you with recommended fee increases and fee changes for various user fees. That's the ordinance that's before you tonight. So just some of the highlights, we're going to create, or we're asking to create a floodplain development permit. But we're also going to eliminate certain business licenses and the fees associated with those, specifically taxi driver, mobile food, seasonal and mobile food event-specific licenses, skating rinks and bowling centers. It's the administration's opinion that those licenses are obsolete, no longer needed, and aren't worth the effort to continue to do. We'll increase other business licenses to capture the cost of issuing that license, increasing solid waste fees based on the consultant's recommendation from several years back, where we're going up just a little bit with the gate fees every year. These fee increases will be implemented with the adoption of ordinance 2025-924. So after the public hearing, the city recommends the adoption of file ordinance 2025-924, authorizing the change in various fees for permits, business licenses, and solid waste fees as part of the 2026 city budget. With that, I am happy, Lori's pointing out to me that we did have a small error in, Lori, you've got it right in front of you. You
Sure.
wanna-
I just wanted to be clear that the firework display permit is not going up by $1,000. It's going from 110 to 165. So we had a little.
We had a
typo in
fat
there.
finger that said
Extra
$1,165, so that's not accurate, so, thanks, Lori, I forgot about that, so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
I got just one for you. The floodplain development permit, can you give me the thought process behind that one?
There's a level of effort that development staff and building staff have to do if someone wants to develop in the floodplain. And this is to recover some of those costs. The expectation is that we're not going to recover all the costs associated with that, and it's probably going to generate about $1,200 in total revenue a year. And Mike, if I'm missing anything there, come on up. If I basically hit it.
No, you hit it for me.
All right.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Hearing or seeing none, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. All right, opening the public hearing on this. Is there anyone in chambers wishing to speak? Going twice? Anyone in chambers wishing to speak on this? Going 3 times? Hearing or seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'm looking for a motion.
I move we adopt file ordinance number 2025-924 and increase the user's fees as recommended.
I have a motion by Williams and a second by Cass. Any further comments? All right, let's go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Nino, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item C, public hearing and discussion and possible action on the 2026 proposed city and library budgets. And we got a presentation by Mr. Godek.
Yes, this one's going to be a little bit more detailed, but it'll still be a lot of fun because it's the budget. So just a quick update on the 2026 budget. At this point in time, staff's not bringing forward any recommended changes to the 2026 budget. And following the public hearing, we would recommend that you adopt the 2026 city budget as it's been presented to the council. So just a quick overview on property tax and fee increases. The top part of this chart is property taxes and wheel tax and where they sat in 2025, where the budget has them in 2026 for a median assessed home. That's a home with a value of $224,900 that has 2 cars that they register, and they're an average residential water customer, which means they have a 5/8 inch meter, and that they use 1,600 cubic feet of water per quarter. Also, their ERUs on stormwater is 1, which is a majority of the city. Some of the smaller lots in the 4th Ward are at 0.7. So the overall tax impact on the median assessed home would be $30.62 a year. The total increase in utilities, which includes water, wastewater, stormwater, and the solid waste management fee, is $107.72 a year. The majority of that increase is based on the water utility. The council approved us filing an application earlier in the year with the Public Service Commission to do a full rate case. That's where we expect it to come back. We're probably not going to know that answer until at least March. We've had very little that the PSC has asked us for based on our initial application. They ask a few questions, clarify a few things, but they're doing their work now, and we're just waiting for them to hold their public hearing prior to taking action. The distribution of the tax rate. So this is what things are going to look like based on taxing jurisdiction. So what you see in this chart is the proposed mill rates are here by taxing body. The city is split between the general fund, and Hedberg Public Library. Overall, the gross tax rate for 2026 is 1828.49. It goes down about 3 cents. The state school tax credit is also decreasing by about 4 cents. So the mill rate is going to 0.7669. That's if you're in the Janesville School District. Doing that same math down here for the Milton School District. I'm sorry, this is the Milton School District. I apologize, I double clicked. This is the Janesville School District. I'll just finish Milton and I'll go back. So this is the impact on taxes for, again, that median assessed home at $224,900. For a taxpayer in the Milton School District, they would see their overall property tax bill go up by $56.56. If we look at the Janesville School District, the gross tax rate is going up $79.7944, 79.44 cents in the mill rate overall. Most of that is attributable to the school district here going up 0.6793. The median assessed home in the Janesville School District will see their tax bill go up $218.17. And that again is a byproduct of the mill rate increasing by 0.7944, the school tax credit decreasing by 0.0466, and then down here, the lottery credit is going down by $8.63, partially offset by an increase in the first dollar credit. So suggested motion is move to adopt the proposed 2026 city budget. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Council have any questions for Mr. Godek? Seeing or hearing none, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone in chambers wishing to speak on the budget? Second call, anyone here speaking or wishing to speak on the budget? Third and final call. Seeing or hearing none, I'll go ahead and close the hearing. I'll go ahead and look for a motion.
I move to adopt the proposed 2026 city budget as presented.
All right, I got a motion by Williams, second by Squire. Any further comment?
And this being in the Milton School District by 3 blocks.
Brought it different just for you.
We know.
My only comment, forgot when we had the budget hearing, to all the department heads and everything, thanks for all your hard work to get to this budget, and great work to follow Mr. Godek. What a wonderful lead he has, but to all the department heads, sincere thanks for all the effort in a tough budget year.
I concur. All right, let's go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Nino, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously.
All right, great. Since there was no amendments to the budget, we'll move on to D, consideration and action on a proposed resolution adopting the 2026 budget, establishing the 2025 net tax rate and appropriating funds for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026. And that's file resolution number 2025-2392. Mr. Godek still here.
I promise this is the last thing I want to talk to you about tonight, and then I'll go sit down and you can talk with Jimsy, who will be much more exciting than I am. So file resolution 2025-2392 sets the city levy, establishes the net tax rate or the mill rate for both, or for the city. So the tax levy is $42,652,979 for the general fund. It's $4,120,387 for Hedberg Public Library. That tax rate or mill rate that we just discussed in the last item is 18.1135 per thousand for the school district of Janesville residents. And for those residents that live in the Milton School District, it's 16.7669. Suggested motion is to adopt file resolution 2025-2392, setting the tax levy and establishing the tax rate for the city of Janesville. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Questions for Mr. Godek? Seeing or hearing none, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move that we adopt the 2025 net tax rate, file resolution 2025-2392.
All right, I got a motion by Cass, and I'll second that.
Second.
Okay. Well, we'll give it to Mr. Nino since he's sick and he still showed up. Any further comments? All right, hearing none, let's go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Nino, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, council members. We get to start this all over again in about 7 months, so
All right.
it's a good time.
All right, moving on to item 8, new business A, consideration and action on agreement with Rock Energy Cooperative for the conveyance of land and the construction of an electrical substation at Innovation Park, which is resolution number 2025-2395. And here for a presentation, we've got Economic Development Director Jimsy.
Good evening, Council. Happy to be here this evening and have a different subject matter to discuss this evening. So, this evening we will be discussing Innovation Park. Innovation Park was the 132 acres that we purchased in 2023 and put in most of the infrastructure in 2024. And we created tax increment district number 43 earlier this year with a TIF development agreement with Zilber for the first 26 acres. And if you've driven by, there's a beautiful industrial building being constructed right now on that parcel. So today we're talking about another component of the infrastructure that had been identified in the TID plan. And so this is the next phase of implementing the TID plan in association with the infrastructure necessary to continue to develop out this industrial park. This evening, we're discussing an agreement with Rock Energy Co-op. As you may know, they're an electrical distribution co-op, and they serve approximately 19,000 people, residents, commercials, industrial members throughout many portions of south central Wisconsin, including many areas within Janesville and surrounding areas. We've been working with Rock Energy between the City of Janesville staff, Rock Energy CEO, and the great engineering teams of both organizations in identifying a location for this substation. The purpose of the agreement, of course, is to expand electrical capacity for Innovation Park and allow for additional development on this site. Without a substation, we will not be able to do any additional industrial development on the remainder of this land. Again, we spoke about Zilber. Zilber's project at Innovation Park has taken the last remaining 5 megawatts of power that were available at that location. The agreement is between the city and Rock Energy and would be for the construction of a new electrical substation. That electrical substation will be 30 megawatts of power. This is definitely a new partnership between the City of Janesville and Rock Energy Co-op, and we're extremely grateful for this new partnership. Excuse me. In the agreement, the city would convey 5 acres of land to Rock Energy for the construction, operation, and of course, maintenance of the 50 megawatt substation. Rock Energy will compensate the city for the land at $88,000 an acre, or approximately $440,000. Rock Energy will be responsible for the construction, operation, and maintenance of the substation. Also in the agreement, the city will reimburse Rock Energy's loan interest cost once the substation becomes operational at the 30 megawatt capacity. The substation infrastructure, as stated before, is included and as it's included and stated as an eligible expense within the TID 43 project plan. You'll see on this map that the substation is approximately 5 acres on the southwest corner of Innovation Park and does abut the current regional stormwater that you see on the far southwest corner. The project is estimated at $7.8 million, and the loan would be at an interest rate of a 5-year loan, but amortized over 30 years. The city administration recommends approving the agreement with Rock Energy Co-op for the conveyance of the land and for the construction of the electrical substation at Innovation Park. And I stand for any questions that you may have this evening.
Councilmember Cass, go ahead.
The power from the substation will be used within the Innovation Park, not anywhere else?
That is the plan, yes, is that it would be. It also actually allows for, when we think further, right? When we go and look at development opportunities further, we have now started with this first substation, and if there is need for additional substation, we've already laid some groundwork for additional substation capacity as the city continues to create opportunities for industrial development. So we've had previous conversations, and we had a previous option to purchase the 267 acres south of this area, but we have let that option expire at this time due to the ability to actually purchase that land.
Any other questions? All right, Councilmember Miller.
I have one question, please.
Go ahead, Councilmember Nino.
Jim Z, just for public record, would you make clear whether or not this substation has anything to do whatsoever with any potential need or use of power at the GM Jatco site?
No. This is a substation with Rock Energy Co-op to serve Innovation Park. It is not related to a potential data center or any potential substations related to Alliant Energy and any possible data center.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Oh, Councilmember Miller, go ahead.
I'm just looking for where I had made my notes, and it doesn't appear that it's stuck. I want to say in the agreement, it outlined 8 acres. It stated 8 acres, but early on page 5, it denotes 5 acres, approximately 5 acres.
That's where we're at right now, is 5 acres, yes. And that's what we've denoted on the map and the certified survey map, which will come to you soon too.
I just didn't know if that was a typo or if that was...
Potentially a typo.
Okay.
Yeah, it is 5 acres, and that's what we have drawn out.
Thank you.
I move to approve the agreement with Rock Energy Cooperative.
I got a motion by Williams. Looking for a second. Second by Cass. Anything else? Any further comment?
Nope.
All right, let's go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Nino, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously.
Thank you, Jim Z.
You have a good evening.
You too. All right, moving on. Item 9, Common Council announcements. Are there any announcements by Councilmember Miller? Go ahead.
Trash pickup, is that pushed off one day this week?
Yes.
Just want people to be aware. Don't put your trash out on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, it is.
All right, well, thanks for the reminder. Anything else?
Speaking of that, everybody have a happy Thanksgiving and stay safe out there in the woods.
All right. All right, moving on to item 10, adjournment. I'm looking for a first.
So
Got a motion by Williams, and second by Miller. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
All right, we're done.